Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This is Kathy and I am back with my fourth card using the Happy Halloween set from the Not Too Shabby shop. This time I'll just be using the cute little witch hat, and as you can see I stamped the hat 4 times, although I'm only going to color it in 3 times. I stamped the image onto a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock, and I used My Favorite Things Extreme Black Hybrid ink. I started out by coloring the underside of the witch hat as well as the band going across the front of the witch hat. I started with C7 and just did a tiny line under the brim of the hat, and then I did a tiny line on the furthest edges of the band on the hat as well as on either side of the buckle and inside of the buckle. Once I was done with the C7, I brought in C5 and extended the C7 on the underside of the brim just a little bit, making sure to keep a fair amount of white space underneath the hat. It appears that the hats are tipped back a little bit, so I wanted to make sure that there was a highlight underneath that on the inside of the hat there. For the band around the hat, when I brought the C5, I just extended the C7 a tiny little bit, and then I brought in C1 and filled in all of the white space that I had previously left. For the orange hat, I started with YR09 and added just a really tiny little line on the outer edges, and then underneath the star, underneath the band, and then just above the band on the hat. I did extend it out a little bit on the top of the hat. Next, I brought in YR07 and blended that out a little bit more, and I am keeping a white line at the very bottom of the top part of the brim, like I did in my previous videos, and also extended on the top of the hat, again leaving a little bit of a white line. I bring in YR04 and blend all of that together. Then I decide that I didn't have quite enough contrast, so I brought in E99 and just added in a few darker areas underneath the star and underneath the band and above the band and on the right side of the top of the hat. Then I decided that I wanted to brighten it up just a little bit, so I did a quick swipe with Y08 over the top of the orange hat. For the other 2 hats, I colored them pretty much using the same technique. I started with the darkest color and adding the shadow underneath the star, underneath the band, just above the band, added a little bit of shading on the top of the hat on the right hand side, and then blended them out with the lighter colors. I'll make sure to have all of the supplies that I used listed in the description below. I'll also list the Copic markers that I used for you. And with that, while I finish up the other 2 hats, I'll go ahead and play a little bit of music for you, and then we'll be back to put the card together. For the background on the card, I started with a piece of white cardstock and I used a stitched rectangle die and cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. Next, I used the stitched triple peekaboo windows and edge dies from My Favorite Things. My goodness, that is a mouthful. And I ran that through my Gemini Junior. I stamped the sentiment Happy Halloween using VersaFine Onyx Black ink down in the bottom right corner. And I had previously die cut a piece of gray striped cardstock. It's from the Take Flight 2 paper pad from Pink and Maine. I'm not sure if it's still available or not, but I'll check into it, and if it is, I'll have it linked below. And I did die cut that using the same stitched rectangle die. So it also measures 4 by 5 1/4, so that when I placed the white stitched triple peekaboo windows on top of it, it would fit nicely, and I would have the stitching from the stitched rectangle going all the way around. I put some foam tape on the back of that and adhered it to the front of a top folding A2 size note card. And off camera, I had fussy cut the witch hats, and I did use a water-based black marker to go around the edges to clean up the not so perfectly cut areas. I put foam tape on the back of each hat and adhered them onto the front of the card. To add a little bit of sparkle, I used my Wink of Stella glitter pen to go over the stars, and to jazz up the buckles a little bit, I used a Stardust gel pen. And to finish it up, I just added a few black sequins here and there, and that finishes up my card for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not yet subscribed, I'd love it if you would, and don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.